YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. As most of you know, I've covered over the years all of the secret societies that the majority of people are not aware of, that the majority of people do not pay attention to, that never gets a light shown on it so that people can see that these people in the tech industry, which is really just a branch, a tentacle of the government, because the government is responsible for this technology and these tech corporations. It's really government technology being sold to you under the premise that you're purchasing these things as opposed to being forced to have GPS tracking monitors on you known as cell phones and listening devices known as cell phones, among all the other technology that we brought inside of our homes. And I've talked about secret societies in general and how these people plot and conspire yet get away with it in broad daylight. Well, there's this story out there some of you may have heard, because I've covered Peter Thiel many times over the past, and internal documents have been leaked about Peter Thiel's secret society and the stuff that they're talking about behind closed doors, including navigating World War III. So the first thing we have to think of when we hear a story like this is, why are they telling this to us? And what is the story regarding the leak? Now, they say the leak was revealed, and it has revealed new details about this secret society, which is called Dialog, which was started by Palantir co-founder Peter Thiel, along with, of course, PayPal founder Peter Thiel. And Dialog is an exclusive group founded by Thiel back in 2006. It convenes yearly for an off-the-record retreat at which leaders discuss topics according to the organization's extremely vague website. And the leak, of course, was exposed supposedly by a Swiss hacker known as Maya Arsene Cremu, stylized with all lowercase, and he's shedding light on what this year's event will cover, as well as who plans to be there. So, again, it doesn't mean that these secret societies do not exist, but if they tell us out in the open that there is a secret society and it's been revealed to us by an internet hacker, you should obviously be skeptical. Now, we could look at this and we could say, is this just their way of distracting us from a lot of the other secret societies and the other meetings that they have? We obviously all know about Bohemian Grove. That's one of the more obvious ones now. Even the Bilderberg Group has gotten some, it's gotten mentioned somewhat in the mainstream, not extremely much, but even some fringe conspiracy theorists talk about the Bilderberg Group. We never hear anybody talk about the Club of Rome. But what we have to remember is that the internet itself is a creation of DARPA, okay? ARPANET, the first operational network to use packet switching technology, which is now DARPA, ARPANET, DARPA, created and founded the internet. Most people just don't even think about what the internet is. They just go on and they use it because most people are bumbling fools. They don't say, what is this? Who's responsible for it? Who's behind it, right? They're under the illusion that, well, YouTube's website is run by YouTube and this website's run by this guy. The government controls the internet. This is how they get inside of your mind. This is how they track and monitor your thoughts, track and monitor your emails. All these things that you think are safe and protected are not. The government reads through your emails. The government uses algorithms to monitor the things you post on Facebook. Every thought that you have, they've trained you to post how you feel when something happens, even these staged world events. That's literally like getting inside of your mind because you're telling everybody how you feel. You're telling everybody what you're thinking on a day in and day out basis. So for anything to be leaked to us, we have to look at it and say, why are they telling us this? Because there are no hackers who are hacking Peter Thiel. There are no hackers who are hacking into government databases. We know all of these stories that come out, like Jeffrey Epstein, come out because they allow them to come out. Because if there was a story that was going to come out on the internet about Jeffrey Epstein exposing everybody in politics as being a pedophile, the government would nip it in the bud, and you would never know who Jeffrey Epstein even was unless they wanted you to know. They would have whacked him Jimmy Hoffa style. There wouldn't have been a trial for the public to consume. There wouldn't have been footage of him in jail. You never would have known he even existed. He would have just been some guy in the background that you never heard about, that you never knew about, and you never even knew died. But they wanted you to know all these things. It's like this story's out there again for a reason, because there's no hackers who are capable of hacking in to the government's website, into the government's internet, into the government's emails to find things out about Dialog. Now, Dialog is public knowledge for the most part because they have a website called Dialog. Peter Thiel has not hidden these things. The question is, why are they telling us these things? Are they telling us these things because they know that the majority of people will do nothing? Is it for their own amusement to come out and say, hey, you're so dumb that we're going to tell you that all of these people like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and all of these Republicans and Democrats like Ted Cruz and Cory Booker, a Republican and a Democrat, that all these people involved in the military and the intelligence communities and NATO, all of these people involved in Hollywood and the New York Times, all of them are getting together, but you're so dumb and you're so under our control that we'll tell you this and you'll do nothing about it, right? You won't even think, why are all these Hollywood people meeting with Ted Cruz and Cory Booker and Tulsi Gabbard? Why are they all meeting with people like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right? Is it because they're all big fans of Angels in the Outfield? That was a Disney movie from like the 80s, of course, about Angels in the Outfield. Of course, he was a child actor who's now an adult actor who I've covered in the past, who's talking about digital ID and anonymity on the internet. These are all things, again, that they want to remove. They want people like me behind a microphone not to be known who I am, and they want my face out there because then eventually they want me to be arrested. They want you to be arrested, held accountable for things you say online that they'll twist into being, all they got to do is say that a website like mine or a video like mine is promoting hate. The next thing you know, they'll say, well, by him saying this about this person or that about this group, it's making it dangerous, because they'll create a false flag around it and say that people went and tried to kill somebody because somebody like me said that they were Satanists. And then they'll say, well, we should go after that guy. We should put him in jail for the rest of his life, because that's how easy it is to manipulate the population. But what they're telling you here is that all these people in Hollywood and politics, music industry and the media and journalists, just like me and Miguel, are all getting together and they're all meeting. And what are they talking about? Well, here are the big retreats that the big retreat session topics are talking about this year. Navigating World War III, bringing back nuclear, battlefield tech, money, does it buy happiness? How's your sex life? Well, we all know how Peter Thiel's sex life is, right? I mean, what's he going to be talking about in front of this group of people? How much literal fudge he could be packing in his anus?
I am proud to be gay.
Yes, we know, Peter, you are indeed flaming. So these are topics we're talking about. Building a cult, right? Moderated by Pray.com founders. So priests and ministers are there. What a surprise, because remember, 501c3 churches, you should stay away from them because it means they're under government control. 501c3 church, for those of you that don't know, means it's a church that's tax exempt, which means they make money and they don't pay taxes. And in order for the government to allow you to be tax exempt, you have to be playing their game, which means you have to be speaking pro-Israel, and you have to be making sure that you keep Christians dumbed down from what's really happening around you, promoting Donald Trump, right? Because we see how politics is filtered into the church, and everything else the government does, of course, to brainwash Christians into falling into the left-right paradigm. So building a cult, build a party. It's fun to be in charge. Disinformation and deep fakes, right? These are the people who create disinformation and deep fakes. It's their technology that creates deep fakes. Democracy under surveillance. And of course, that's really what it's all about. And again, Peter Thiel, for anyone out there, when we talk about, Peter Thiel there, he's talking about his sex life. Let's talk about relationships. How about we talk about Peter Thiel and that mysterious death of his boyfriend, right? Peter Thiel's boyfriend, who just conveniently, he was, having... I mean, look, these people don't have affairs. These people are all in open relationships because all they do is pretty much hook up with each other, and they're all related. So they're all in incestual relationships with one another. But Conveniently, one of Peter Thiel's boyfriends happened to fall off of a roof, and Peter Thiel was never questioned, really, or blamed for anything that could have happened. All we can assume is that this guy that he was with clearly found out some things he probably shouldn't have found out. Not about Peter Thiel's husband or anything like that. I mean, we're talking about some of the things that are coming with the surveillance state and Palantir and what their real plan is for humanity. But they won't talk about that stuff there. They'll talk about democracy under surveillance, which is what? A technocracy, which we'll get into again momentarily for a short history on it for anyone out there that doesn't know. But this is what they give you in these articles out there. Since its founding in 2006, Dialog has emerged as one of the most off-the-radar gatherings of C-suite execs and kingmakers, and the organization is preparing for a major expansion with plans to build a campus in the D.C. suburbs as a permanent hub for off-the-record meetings. Now, that's another thing we could look at and say, well, are they doing this because they're going to create a false flag that's going to give these people more protection? Because that's how it works, right? They say, look, Dialog has a campus here and people are going to go, and people could see it publicly, just like they could see the Mason lodges, just like we know they've created false flags around the Satanic Temple that I've covered over the years, where they pretend people are sending bombs to the Satanic Temple, which gives them more protection, which makes them victims. Let's victimize these people, right? We'll have a Dialog headquarters, and then they could create a false flag like they did in other places, like Comet Ping Pong, right? And then say, oh my gosh, it's not the person who went to Dialog and created a false flag and, did whatever they claim when they do the false flag. They'll say he's not responsible. Who's responsible for it are the people that gave him the thoughts that these people are bad. So people like a call for an uprising. People out there are saying that these people are conspiring. And that's really what this is it not? Because here we have Elon Musk, Jared Kushner, Ted Cruz. We have the YouTube CEO, Neil Mohan, who's one of the biggest douchebags walking the earth. Of course, these people who have defunded channels like mine and decide who can make money on YouTube and who can. Not that it's very much, but of course that makes it difficult for people to make content, right? They decide and then they let people like me back on because they know we can't make as much content, but they still want to monitor what we're saying because they want to get inside of our minds because they can't believe that there's people like us who are actually awake and not falling for their bull crap on a day in, day out basis, who know that the majority of stuff, 99.9% of the stuff that comes out in the news is, in fact, a psyop and a false flag event for the most part when it comes to wars and these other green screen events that they show us, like moon landings, etc. They want to monitor us to make sure, hey, are they figuring this out? Are they figuring out what are they telling people who listen to their channels? Are people still listening to these people? Are our agents taking over? Because remember, they've infiltrated this entire truth movement with their own agents, from Candace Owens to the Charlie Kirks. 2016, again, when they removed all of us after Pizzagate and they brought in a whole new movement of people who nobody ever knew existed in the first place, Tim Pool, and they promoted all of them, monetized all of them. They're all millionaires, right? Which is perfectly fine, but the rest of us got suppressed, removed for years, only to be brought back, and then, of course, nobody to remember. Oh, right, I remember a call for an uprising. I haven't seen him in 6 years. I haven't seen him in 10. That's because I've had 99 other channels, along with everybody else out there who's actually trying to get you out of the left-right hive mind that the government wants you trapped inside of. So these are the people meeting. You'd say, why would the YouTube CEO be meeting with a senator, a Treasury secretary, Elon Musk, Jared Kushner, people in the White House, people in Hollywood? Wow, why would Republicans and Democrats who hate each other on TV, who tell you every day to hate anybody who doesn't vote the same as you, why would they be meeting? Well, because this is what the definition of a conspiracy is. And this is what should be occurring. When you hear stories like this about these people meeting in secret to talk about these events like World War III, which you have no say in, right? You say, well, how are we even in a war? How are these wars going on? Because these people manufacture the wars. They manufacture the wars because these are the people conspiring. You see, people who are conspiracy theorists, they don't even know what the word conspiracy means. Conspiracy is a secret plan or agreement between two or more people to commit an illegal, harmful, or subversive act such as fraud, treason, or murder. It can refer to the act of planning together, the plan itself, or the group involved. Okay? So let's get that out of the way, because most people are like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Okay, so we're talking about people who are rich, prominent, meeting together in secret. We got Bohemian Grove, Bilderberg. You want to count this place, Dialog? Sure. They meet in secret all the time. And then we get all these world events, and all we do is remain divided among each other. And nobody goes, well, who are the ones responsible for dividing us? Who are the ones responsible for the wars? Who are the ones conspiring? Well, it's all these people. Your politicians who don't get voted in, These people in Silicon Valley who are allowed to be billionaires, who tell you that eventually you're going to be living on universal wage, universal basic income, not allowed to work. And nobody goes, well, who gave them the right to do this? Who gave them the right to create this technology? Why is this technology being removed? Why are we letting people build robots? Nobody says any of it. You're supposed to go, oh, it's Elon Musk. Let's get excited over Elon Musk telling us that we need brain chips, right? Let's get excited over Elon Musk telling us we're not going to have jobs, we're going to be worthless, right? This is treason. And under treason, all of these people meeting in secret, when they're talking about these topics, we could look at it and say they're conspiring. And what should be occurring is that when people hear these stories, whether you believe that this is a real secret group or not, we know that these other meetings occur, the Bilderberg meetings, the Club of Rome meetings. We should all be saying that this is treason. When presidents and CEOs of corporations and the editors of the New York Times are meeting there, that is a conspiracy. That is them conspiring against the people. And every one of them should be arrested for it. So when we hear these stories, that's what we should be talking about. But we're not, right? Nobody's talking about any of the laws like General Conspiracy Statute, 18 USC, right? 371, the law makes it a crime to conspire to either commit any federal offense or defraud the U.S. government or its agencies. Or how about if we look at any of these technical terms of what treason actually is. How about taking the supposed government that's in place, right? We're supposed to be what? A democracy. That's what they claim, a republic. We all know that's not true. But let's say hypothetically it was a republic we're living in and a democracy. Well, all of these people are trying to turn this into a technocracy, right? So if they're trying to turn it into a technocracy, that would mean that they're conspiring to overthrow the government system that the people believe is in place, which would make them guilty on the spot. Right? People who are meeting like Peter Thiel, who openly tell you that they really don't like humanity, that they don't really want humans to even exist. These are the things that people like Peter Thiel are saying out in the open without the people holding him accountable for.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in this.
So you have this guy meeting with your politicians, holding meetings, right? And we know he's at all of these other meetings as well. It doesn't just matter with Dialog. And he's talking about, do we need humanity? Do we want humanity? Do we care about human beings? The answer is no, that he says, right? Then we, of course, have the technocracy aspect of it, which most people just focus in on communism. They focus in on, socialism, let's just say, right? That's the big term we always hear. Oh, New York City turning into socialist. Get out of New York City immediately, right? None of these people are even aware of what technocracy is and how they've been trying to implement this for a long time. How Elon Musk's grandfather is one of the founders of technocracy, right? I showed this recently, the Technocrats magazine, 30 million out of work in 1933. Yes, you're 33, code, but 1933, it's 2026. 20,000 a year income for every family. Which would you rather have? Be out of work, or would you rather have $20,000 free income back then, right? Do you hear the same narrative today? You hear Elon Musk every week talking about, oh, don't worry about your savings. You don't need savings. You'll get free money. The government talking about giving free money to people of certain ethnicities and gender. Do you see what they're pushing you towards? It's a technocracy. And all of these guys that nobody elected, like Peter Thiel, not that any of the politicians in power were elected, because let's be real, all this stuff about voter fraud. The fraud is the voting system. It's not real. So nobody's rigging elections. There's nothing to rig. It's not real. It's the illusion of an election. It's the illusion that you have power because the people would rise up against it if they realize that they don't have power, that it's the same people who are all related to each other. It's really a monarchy that nobody asked for that continues to do these things and divide all of us and then strip us of our rights, because that's how this entire system works. And here's Peter Thiel actually telling you, literally, okay, this is his own mouth, talking about technology being the alternative to politics. That politics are, it's bad and all this stuff because everybody's divided, but what everyone could agree on unilaterally, and, we could convince people who are never going to agree through technology, right? He's talking openly about what they're trying to establish, which is a technocracy.
The basic idea was that we could never win an election on on getting certain things because we were in such a small minority. But maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through technological means. And this is where I think technology is this incredible alternative to politics.
And again, even speaking this way, okay, in what is supposed to be a republic, is technically treasonous and conspiring. But when you're meeting in private with all of these people in politics and Hollywood, and then you look at the news industry, I mean, look at Peter Thiel's network here of people he's connected to. Musk and Kushner and OpenAI and Palantir and the U.S. Army, right? And we all know about Palantir and all the videos I've done on Palantir, which are available on the website, right? And all these other clowns who are connected to this supposed group like Tulsi Gabbard, right? Doing the pyramid. I mean, why is she doing this? She's going to a Jay-Z concert? I mean, this is them just telling you through signs and symbols that this is a small group of people who are conspiring against you. It is no different than a gang sign when you see them doing this, right? And they openly do this in front of your face, right? This one, I showed this for, since this occurred, I guess 2 years ago now, when Donald Trump supposedly won the election, of course, which was not real. The plan was to put him back in, have the fake assassinations, all the other stuff. Okay. Elon Musk, some deep truths here. Somebody posted a picture of RFK, Gabbard, Musk, and Trump. And it says the Democrats won the election because these are all people who are openly Democrats who are now Republicans. And then people just go, oh, okay. These guys flip sides whenever they want. Regular people don't. It's very rare a regular person goes, well, I was Democrat, now I'm pro. All these people, these prominent people, they just switch because they're actors playing roles, right? Now all these people are Democrats, and they're like, oh, that's because they got extreme on the liberal side. Now I'm a conservative. And they go, yeah, welcome to our team. Instead of going, can we trust these people? These people really flip-flop, and we're letting these people be in charge. And really, again, the main question I always say is, how does nobody even question the elections? You don't, you call the news fake. Everybody calls the news fake. Republicans and Democrats. Fox News fake, CNN's fake. But where do you get your results of the election from? A television set. Here's the results on CNN. Here's the results on MSNBC. Here's the results on Fox News, right? You don't see who's anyone's voting for. With all the tech we have, you would think that we could just have cameras sitting and somebody goes up and they write down who they vote for and they go, well, with privacy, nobody wants to see who you're voting for. Oh, no? They're literally trying to get you to tell everyone who you voted for so they can keep you divided. That person's Republican. That person's Democrat. Remember those stories I covered over the years where they've come out and they've told who your neighbor, actually votes for so you could realize, oh, my neighbor up the road's a Republican. I don't like him. My neighbor up the road's a Democrat. I don't like them, right? They obviously want you to know what side your neighbor's on so that they make sure you're divided with your neighbors and there's nothing but infighting going on around you at all times, as long as it's not fighting against the actual fake government that's in place, right? So nobody goes, hey, how do we find out if the vote actually is counted here? Is anyone? No, they're not. But if it was a real democracy, you would say, well, we'd all like to see who, tally it. Let us watch so we know it's real and not rigged. But instead we get the results from a television set, yet nobody says anything. And now with this story out there, again, what the problem is that when you look at who's responding to these types of stories, right? Because people like me have been covering secret societies for years, many other channels that we would call truth channels, right? And then when you see people like DeFranco, I believe his name is Philip DeFranco. Sorry to pause and actually look up his first name. Guy is as cringy as it gets. I mean, these are the people that, of course, they've promoted and they push in the algorithm. Brain dead people who pretend they try to talk articulately to get you stuck into stuff. Anytime there's a conspiracy, oh, these people are crazy. Oh, there might be a little bit truth to it, but there's a little extreme, Pizzagate, anything else. These are complete frauds with complete garbage channels that they shove down your throat. No, I'm not saying that at jealousy. I couldn't care less, okay? Because I am very aware of where my channel would be based on how big my channel was when it first blew up. I don't care, okay? But Philip DeFranco is as cringy as it gets, and anyone who watches him, it's pretty embarrassing. But look, you got him talking about this other guy, Ian Carroll. I've talked about him. He's another agent I've exposed, okay? I mentioned him in a video. I don't have a specific one on him, because I don't have the time to make videos just saying who's a show, who's not. You should be able to tell, right? Who's yoked up. All these Candace Owens like people are like, they're the ones spitting truth. They've hijacked the movement. These people are meeting with Donald Trump, okay? Do you think Donald Trump's going to do an open interview with me? Give me another break. Really? Oh yeah, I'm going to meet with Obama and Trump and Kanye West. Okay, these people are all meeting with each other. Tucker Carlson from CNN. Oh yeah, they're all truthers now. That's how easy it is to manipulate people. They just push these people down your throat. They have them talk a little bit about Israel, right? The synagogue of Satan. They have them talk a little bit about, the fallen ones and Nephilim. They bring in, faith into it that gets people drawn in. They bring, obviously, the child trafficking aspect in, which is, people get drawn into it because good people care about children. Remember, they don't go into McMartin. They don't go into PTA. They don't go into underground tunnels. They don't go into human sacrifice. These children are actually bred. Okay, a lot of these children you don't even hear about because they're Jane and John Does, that these witches have covens. They literally birth children for sacrifice, okay? So while they're focusing on kids going missing, which of course does occur, think about how many millions of children are birthed by these witches. They literally knock up these witches who live off of your tax money, by the way. Okay, you never hear of them. There's women who are in covens. They continually get pregnant. They give birth. Right? The doctors come because doctors are in on it as well. I've talked about this doing interviews with Satanists in the past. A lot of doctors who come and perform the abortion rituals in front of a group of people or the births and then do the sacrifice. People are like, that's crazy. That sounds nuts. It's true. Okay? These women birth the children just for human sacrifice. You'll never know the child's name. It doesn't have a birth certificate. They don't exist. And they do this always, every day. So it's more than people think. It's not just, there's some kids going missing and stories that they feed you. It is their obsession with the blood of children and adrenochrome. And again, this goes back to Peter Thiel as well. Right? Peter Thiel, Ambrosia, the startup harvesting the blood of the young. This is a Peter Thiel company, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, he has a company about, all the stuff we've seen on TV shows where they talk about, old people getting the blood of the youth. Yeah. Peter Thiel's doing it. The notion has been parodied on TV. A real company is offering transfusions of plasma from teenagers to reinvigorate older people, right? Okay, their obsession with the blood of the youth. And it's not just for, transfusions, okay? It's for consumption. This goes back to Aleister Crowley. This goes back to the Old Testament. This goes back to the blood libel. And again, we know the people who are most involved in that, the people you're not allowed to talk about or you're labeled anti-you-know-what. So when we see these big conspiracy, Ian Carroll, these are all the hijack conspiracy guys, right? They're done. They're not done. No one's going to do anything about it. These people aren't going to talk about what's really going on, right? With transhumanism, the mark of the beast, the collective consciousness, all this stuff I've talked about, the technocracy, right? None of them are talking about. None of them are talking about, how about Peter Thiel's connection to the Vatican, Opus Dei, the Vatican's secret hand in global affairs, right? Former head of the Opus Dei. This character here, Father Arnie, who graduated from Harvard, he groomed Peter Thiel. He's close friends with Peter Thiel, right? Peter Thiel's close friends with everybody. If you look at the chart of all the people involved in the White House, in Hollywood, everywhere, Peter Thiel, he's hanging out with Donald Trump. Donald Trump's shaking his hand. He's involved, right? Because he has money, right? And what's the other stuff Peter Thiel's working on? Well, his Cowgorithm, right, powered cattle solar company that he's working on. And again, people go, well, what's the big deal? He's doing this with cattle on a farm. They monitor and track the cattle. It's easier than putting in fences. Do you ever hear of experiments with rats, right, and mice? We always hear about that stuff, right? They do it. What do you think they're doing it on a mouse for? Because they're anti-mouse? They're like, let's see these mice. I want to kill them all. Well, yeah, these people are sick. They do want to kill them. They probably want to shove them up their rear ends. But the reality is that they run these experiments in the open on animals because they know that the human animal is so dumb, they don't realize they're testing these experiments and telling you this stuff because this is, exactly what the plan is for you. And they're so arrogant and cocky and narcissistic that they tell you they're doing this to cows because they know you're going to sit there and go, they'll never do that to us. This guy's a conspiracy nut, right? But that's exactly what they're doing, right? Using audio cues and gentle vibrations, ranchers can guide and contain herds remotely from a smartphone without breaking ground or stringing wire. I have a separate video on this, but right, these are the things that Peter Thiel's working on, right? So being able to control the invisible fence using frequencies, right? Oh my goodness, where could they do that? And how could they can't do that to humans, right? Oh no, what do you think these towers are for? So you have faster phone service? Because, anybody out there noticed faster phone service since 2000 when the first phone came out? Maybe slightly, but really, you noticing anything going on faster? Of course not. The other thing going on is these towers are going up. They're telling you so your phone can download faster. And yeah, we know weather modification these towers are used for as well, which is why constant winds. Does anyone notice how windy last time, at least when I was in America, how windy it was getting. People mess with me all the time. Like, geez, it's windy here. I see the story still about all the tornadoes popping up, right? How convenient all these towers are up, right? But they're talking about frequencies, alpha waves, theta waves, delta waves, gamma waves, right? Frequencies that, like, certain waves, delta waves, deep sleep, transcendence, restoration, visualization, trance streaming. These are brain waves that they put you in when you watch TV, when they program you. And they can do that to you via these towers as well, just like they're doing to those cows, right? And again, when we talk about their obsession with monitoring our movements, we can look at RFK and the White House. They want to launch that massive advertising campaign. Again, I did a video on this on the website at callforuprising.com. They want Americans to use wearables like Fitbits and Apple Watches. They condition you, telling you, well, wear a Fitbit. And we'll go, why would I do it? They're like, well, I help you monitor how many steps you take. Huh? Who gives a crap? Oh, well, you should know how many steps you take because you could lose weight. Oh, get everybody obsessed with their weight. Not going, why am I so heavy? I don't even eat a lot. Oh, because of the stuff they're stuffing in the food that you buy at the store because you can't farm yourself because you got to work in the matrix. So there's no time to actually farm or learn how to farm because they're not going to teach you that at school anyway. So you're getting fat and obese because you sit at a desk, then you try to go to the gym, and you don't realize every single food that's processed, even the stuff that you buy, you go, I'm going to eat lean. I'm just going to get meats that are getting stuffed with sugars and corn syrup and everything else that makes you fat. And then they go, well, get a Fitbit, right? Go get your Ozempic shot, which is really, the same mRNA that's in the COVID vaccine. They couldn't get you to get the COVID vax. So have you noticed the pivot to the fat shots that everybody's taking? Yeah, you don't think it's got mRNA? Of course it does. Of course it does. They just realized, hey, we got to pivot. Nobody's afraid of COVID. Well, we have a society of narcissists, so we'll tell them we have a shot that makes them skinny. Right? What we'll do is we'll just do something that really eats away at their insides, makes them not want to eat. And these people will do it. And they did. How many people have lined up for it? Everybody knows somebody who's got it, and whether it's a celebrity or a person in your own life, right? But they get you to wear the Fitbits, the Apple Watch. This is all conditioning, again, to tracking and monitoring you, getting you comfortable with this surveillance system that they're building. Remember, democracy under surveillance, just like they're talking about at this specific meeting. And getting people to accept it's one of the key things, right? ICE using this on immigrants. So conservatives who would normally be like, I don't want that tech shouldn't exist, that could be dangerous. They love it because they've trained them to be racist, right? And they go, well, that's not racist having illegals here. These stories are manufactured. Okay, if they weren't telling you every day that people were legally crossing the border, you wouldn't even blink if you saw Mexicans at Home Depot who are willing to come and work in your yard for $5 versus some other company that would want $50 an hour, right? But now, we got to get them out of here. They're raping our kids. They're raping our white girls, right? All manufactured so you accept this type of tech that Palantir is using to get them thrown out of the country, right? And again, this goes back to Thiel and Elon Musk, the two butt buddies from PayPal. And everybody loves Elon, right? He could do no wrong because he stands on stage. He talks about Mars. Guy is talking about not universal basic income, carbon footprint tax, all things that are going to enslave us. And they go, no, he's a good guy. They actually are so dumb. They believe that he's a Christian now. Just like Trump, he came out. He's like, I believe Jesus might exist or whatever. I could believe it. And they go, that's great. He's seeing the light. That's what they're talking about the church. Elon's seeing the light. These morons, right? Oh, yeah. From, a month ago, Elon Musk compares his company's work to that of Jesus. All right, how many Bible verses we got about false miracles, false prophets, Antichrist, right? Yeah, how about that? He's comparing his tech to that of Jesus. Neuralink testing, their latest technology where people can see, the blind can see again. Nobody questioning this biblically, right? Access humanity's collective consciousness, okay? Elon Musk talking about several years ago, increasingly appears that humanity is a biological bootloader for digital superintelligence. So talking about transhumanism, which happens to be a topic at Peter Thiel's event, he's talking about your brain being the bootloader. Yeah, with his brain chip, right? Creating a neural lace is a thing that really matters for humanity to achieve symbiosis with machines. And then, so you can see the spiritual tie-ins, right? And it goes right back to Peter Thiel, because what's the other stuff Peter Thiel's talking about? The apocalypse. He's obsessed with the apocalypse. He hates humanity. He's obsessed with the apocalypse. I mean, you remember this? I covered this a couple years ago, or at least a year ago. October 2025. Okay. Last year, South Park recruited Antichrist expert Peter Thiel to abort Trump's baby with Satan. Again, they use this stuff, comedy, to deflect off of what's really going on and the Antichrist system being built and how Peter Thiel is handed and all these other characters. But this is a clip. This is Peter Thiel. This is a clip Again, from, Peter Thiel is supposed to look like some type of Christian. And the guy couldn't be less of a follower of Christ. But here is the scene from South Park that everybody saw last year.
Peter Thiel knows about the Antichrist. I'm Peter Thiel, and I know about the Antichrist. Hello, kids, I'm Peter Thiel, and I'm here to talk to you about the Antichrist. The Antichrist is a newer, more human form of Satan that will soon walk the earth. See, Satan was a fallen angel, and God punished him. So Satan could never have a baby until along came Mr. Donald Trump. Okay, the Antichrist is coming. The Bible refers to the evil, which refers to America, the fourth seal broken and hell coming to earth. I'm Peter Thiel, and I know about the Antichrist. I'm Peter Thiel. I'm here to help our country.
And from there, of course, Peter Thiel is lecturing, because that's what they're referencing, how he's lecturing at all these universities, all these places. People go see Peter Thiel lecture you about the Antichrist. Meanwhile, he's openly telling you about, Alexander conquering, right? And there's all these undertones of Donald Trump being Alexander the Great and Trump divine intervention, right? And he's sitting there and he's talking about the Antichrist, how he's going to swindle people, how he's going to come in. These are the people who are building the Antichrist system. And then they're lecturing you on the Antichrist when in fact they likely are Antichrists.
It was Ivan Illich who said that in the time before Christ, there were many forerunners to Christ. In the time after Christ, there will be many forerunners of the Antichrist. So in some sense, it's a type. So Nero was a type of the Antichrist, or maybe Napoleon was a type of the Antichrist. And it's sort of it's someone who aspires for world domination, to create, creation of this sort of one world state. In some ways, Alexander the Great was sort of a pre-Christ prototype of the Antichrist. It's sort of very parallel to Christ. They both die at 33. Alexander conquers the world. Christ saves it. So sort of a compare and contrast. So, but in some sense, the Antichrist as an idea is something that really comes into being in the world after Christ. And so there's, and then there's a lot of things about it that are mysterious. In some ways, the Antichrist copies Christ. The Antichrist pretends to be greater than Christ, hyper-Christian, ultra-Christian, and then maybe only ultimately, deeply anti-Christian. You can think of it as a system, where maybe communism is a one-world system. So it can be an ideology or a system. And then of course, you can also think of it as Newman did, where it's sort of the final dictator of the one-world state, where it's still, you stress it more as a person. You can think of it as a type, a system, a person. How does a sort of world takeover actually happen? And it's kind of not a deus ex machina, but like a daemonium ex machina. It's like the Antichrist just gives these hypnotic speeches where nobody can remember a word, and then sort of just swindles people's souls out of them, and they submit to this totalitarian state or something like this. And I think if we were to speculate on how to solve that plot hole, we have an answer in the world after 1945, that people are, in 1900, early 20th century, people were not yet scared of apocalyptic weapons. They could not imagine, anything of the scale that we'd have by the second half of the 20th century. And so the Antichrist takes over by talking about Armageddon.
This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing.
mean, to be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe, but is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism? This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted.
So, I mean, we can look at what these people are talking about. Then these people are meeting in secret. They're talking about World War III. Did you even know World War III was here? No, they're talking about how they're manufacturing World War III, right? Because clearly they're going to make the announcement sooner or later that we're in World War III with Iran and Israel, right? Part of the greater Israel expansion, which I've covered many times. But this is a conspiracy. And this is the problem, right? The problem is that you don't have people who are willing to, everyone's afraid, right? And you can say, well, why don't you do something? Well, I'm not in on it anymore. I'm not in America. I'm not a part. I have removed myself from it, and I'm continuing to remove myself from it because I'm not going to be doing this much longer because there's no point. There's no point because nothing can be done to stop it. I've told people, they go, what do you want? What can we do to stop it? Well, you can shut off your tech for starters, right? You can shut your tech off and you can start living the way people were meant to live, but nobody will because it's the worst and greatest addiction of all time, and nobody will admit it. I mean, you're all on tech right now listening. I'm on tech recording it. I'm not being a hypocrite about it. I use technology. It's unfortunate, and I'm trying very hard to separate myself every day more and more from using it and being dependent on it, right? That's really the only thing that can be done. An uprising can't occur. People go, oh, yeah, the people can rise up. Oh, yeah? Do you know what the military's purpose is? The military is not protecting America from Al-Qaeda and all these groups. Al-Qaeda and all these groups are funded, ISIS, they're all funded by our own government, okay? They're not real boogeymen. The military is there to protect these people from us. That's the point. So there can't ever be an uprising. There can't ever be a stoppage of this because even if the people got together, say 1 million people got together and they said, okay, Peter Thiel, Trump, all these guys are conspiring. They're meeting together in secret, this definition of a conspiracy and treason, Republicans and Democrats together who pretend to be enemies on TV, then they're best buddies, they're butt buddies behind closed doors, probably all banging each other too, which they are. And people got together and they go, we don't want this anymore. We don't want violence, but you guys are not allowed to be in charge anymore. We're not allowing this technology to advance. All they would do is call the military and put out news stories that say 1 million people are meeting together because they're going to upthrow the government. 1 million people are meeting together because they're going to kill all these people. They'll just make up a story. And then the mass amount of brainwashed civilians will believe the story. And they'll go, yep, those people need to be arrested and thrown in jail. Instead of them actually being held accountable. So there's nothing that can actually really be done. So then you go, well, why are you doing the video? Well, just trying to make you aware at this point of this, who they are, what they're doing, watching these other channels who are, they're done, right? These guys like Ian Carroll, they're done. Musk is done, right? And 5 minutes later, I'll tell you about his Tesla car. What do they call that? Gay-mobile. I can't even think of what it's called all the time. Cybertruck, right? He'll leave in his Cybertruck after he's done recording his video at some Hollywood studio. I mean, we're going to get him, right? Yeah, but they got everyone trained to love them and love their tech, right? I mean, look, nobody out there is going to say they love Peter Thiel because you look at Peter Thiel, you see a demon. I mean, he's the creepiest. And you would think with the technology and the blood transfusion and everything else that this guy could get a better face than all the plastic surgery. He's probably the most hideous looking creature. But I mean, you got to assume that these, the demon bloodline here, they can't do much about it. They look like ghouls, right? From David Rockefeller on down to Peter Thiel. They're nasty looking demonic entities that walk among us. But folks, I covered this because I see the topic out there. And we don't have enough people talking about all the secret societies, but we really don't have anybody talking about, now this is by definition conspiracy. This is people conspiring, that's what they're doing. And you go, well, how do you know this? Well, look at the topics they're discussing. People go, well, maybe they're just talking about it because they want to help. Well, who's the ones responsible for it? Who's bringing us to World War III? Your next door neighbor, Doug? See, we got to go to Iran for no reason and make sure that the oil, we're getting higher gas prices so we can run out of oil so we can all go electric and be on an electric grid. Huh? Is it his fault? No, it's their fault. It's all the division. Our faults? No, it's their fault. It's all brainwashing, right? And then you can sit there and you can go, well, okay, a lot of these topics we could say by definition are conspiring. Well, these are all people who want a technocracy. They're all connected to the technocracy. Now you look into the history of the technocracy and the technate, and you look at Thiel and Palantir, and you look at Musk and technocracy and his grandfather Haldeman, and you look at DARPA and Jeff Bezos and Amazon and the stuff he says, and Bill Gates. Those are all these guys talk about, oh, I'm going to give all my money away. I want to leave the world a better place. That's all it's all fictitious while they're building underground bunkers. Jeff Bezos just said it. Oh, I'm going to give all my money away to everybody out there, even though my grandfather started DARPA and created the internet, DARPA, which is responsible for all this dangerous, deadly technology, enslavement technology. And I didn't really start this company, but I'm going to give all this money away to everybody because I'm a good guy, while pretending to go into space. And then in the meantime, what are the headlines we see on Jeff Bezos? Oh, Jeff Bezos is building a massive underground bunker, right? All these guys, we're going to give everything away to charity, but we're building underground bunkers. What are you building an underground bunker for? Oh, well, in case nuclear bomb. Yeah, nuclear bomb that doesn't exist? You mean in case the people figure out what you've actually done, the treason that's been committed? Because I think they realize that the people will actually figure this out maybe at some point. At least that's a fear of theirs, so that's why they have underground bunkers that are stored with food. We also know with planned food shortages and other things that will be coming at some point, doesn't mean tomorrow, doesn't mean the next 5 years, that they have all the food and the resources underground while we'll all be up here starving to death and killing each other and eating each other, which is at least what they hope will actually occur. But these are people, all these big tech guys, I've talked about them all, Zuckerberg, they're all connected to the government. And then I'll do more detail about Zuckerberg, his new movie, etc. But I'm ranting on, this is the Dialog Club, which you might as well call the Gay Dialog Club, because this is just a bunch of, I don't know how many people are walking out of there with AIDS, but I assume the majority of them are. But anyway, we don't deal this. But anyway, this is they might as well just call it the Dialog Technocracy, because all of these people who are conspiring to bring down the structure of the current government, the system, that's what they're doing. They're knocking it down limb by limb. They're not improving it. They're the ones who are sabotaging it. They're sabotaging our lives. They're sabotaging the structure of government so that they can bring in communist technocracy, track our every word, our every movement, and imprison us for our thoughts and the things we say versus the crimes that are actually committed, like rape, child abduction, and human sacrifice. So, welcome to Hell on Earth, ladies and gentlemen. My rant is over here. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.